There we go. And I will stop sharing so that Henry can share his screen.
Thanks, Alex.
No problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Alex said, my name's Henry, and I work over at GCW Engineering as a civil engineer, and I'm happy to be here and present for you guys, especially to see such a long list of people here to listen. That's really encouraging to see, just because you guys obviously want to improve something about your jobs prospects or careers or something. So it shows a lot of good character that you guys are interested in improving with these webinars and stuff. So kudos. Let's see if I could share my screen and start the PowerPoint. Okay, hopefully you guys can all see that. I'm just gonna. Yeah, so again, the presentation today, I don't know if I can move this. Yeah, so the presentation today is just how to be successful in the first 90 days. I hope to provide some tips that don't just apply to civil engineers, but like talking to Alex before this meeting, he's in computer science. So I kind of had that in mind to hopefully provide tips that apply to all engineers, not just civil, but mechanical or electrical or computer science or computer engineers. I was going to start video so you guys could see me. Yeah. Hi, guys. That's me. So brief overview of my presentation. I didn't really want to go into just providing some tips that you guys could go and Google, because obviously that's not going to provide any value to you guys. So the three things I want to talk about: tip number one, mentally prepare. Tip number two, decrease your learning curve. Tip number three, be a team player. And at the end, have some question and answer session. But feel free to chime in at any time or stop me if you have any specific questions of what I'm talking about, or want to bring something up, or want to expand on something that I'm talking about. I would love to make this more of an informal discussion than like a lecture. I think you guys definitely have enough of that going on with your college careers. So firstly, tip number one, mentally prepare. The first step at being successful is for you to mentally prepare yourself for your new roles. Let go of the past and accept your new job duties and responsibilities. The biggest problem is assuming you will be successful in the new position. Prepare mentally has to be a conscious effort and includes continuously evaluating your strengths and weaknesses and improving where you can. Be prepared to adjust to the company's culture, and most importantly, be humble. You're there to learn. Do your best to get up to speed and start helping the team. I also want to iterate here and take some seconds to talk about like maybe what your first, sorry, my baby daughter is in the background smiling. I just want to take some time to maybe think about what your first 90 days would be like. Obviously, maybe your mileage might vary in different firms or agencies. But in your first 90 days on the job, you might not be doing very much, and don't feel bad if that's the case. You know, the first 90 days is critical time for you to learn and get up to speed. So tip number two, decrease your learning curve. Like I mentioned, for every discipline, I'm sure it's the same. My experience is obviously in civil, but everything you learn in college is so theoretical. You have no real world applications for everything that you learn in school. So pretty much everybody in engineering field understands that you don't know what you're talking about. So the big step in your first 90 days is just decreasing your learning curve. Especially, because I started at 2 different companies, not too long ago, GCW and Atkins, that just getting used to how things work there and my new task and my new roles. It's definitely important to take some time to get up to speed as fast as you can. So some tips is when you're given tasks, make sure you understand why you're being asked and how does it fit into the bigger picture of things. This will help you know what's important to get right and minimize the chances of making mistakes. Everyone will understand you don't know what you're doing, so ask questions when things are unclear and ask for help if you're feeling overwhelmed. On that note, the best way to be successful is by asking the right questions. There's a fine line though. Don't ask too many questions where it could get annoying, but also ask enough so you won't make mistakes. But don't be ashamed to make mistakes, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. Just make sure to do a little bit of legwork to see if you can answer your question yourself, or at least make a good guess of what the answer could be. This will show you have good work ethic and have good critical thinking skills. On that note, when you are given a task, make sure to write them down. That's huge in our field, especially when things are so specific. Write everything you can down. And my next tip, I'm sorry if these are like 5 tips within 1 tip. I didn't want to make like a 10 PowerPoint slide. But so part of this tip, to decrease your learning curve, bring a pen and notepad everywhere. Even if your company, people don't do that around your office, it'll look good if you do, because they'll see that you're taking initiative to remember what you're told, and you're taking your task seriously. So if you write everything down from names to tasks and instructions you're given, and keep it handy for reference, you won't believe the amount of times I reference how to do something from years past. Especially in civil engineering, the work that I do, a lot of design work, there might not be times that I do something very specific in AutoCAD for years in between, like maybe pipe networks or analyzing a turn radius for a semi-truck at an intersection, or even just doing calculations for a signal level of service or something like that. Hope none of that's going over your head, because that's kind of beyond the point. But my point is, if you write everything how to do those very specific things, you go back and reference them like a week or a few months or years down the road, like it'll come right back to you when you read your notes, and your boss's boss will probably start to realize that you guys are really competent. The last tip on this slide, some might disagree, but I thought maybe pack a lunch. So pack a shelf-stable lunch, at least for the first few weeks, because you have no idea if you're going to be taken out to lunch or fend for yourself. Like again, be prepared to adapt to the company's culture. But if you pack a lunch that's shelf stable and you get taken out, you can always eat it the next day. But if you get to stay in the office during lunch, you could use those times to mingle, ask some good questions, or simply, spend that time learning extra skills. Getting to work with some people out of college, I could tell the high achievers, they spend some time during lunch learning AutoCAD to draft better and stuff, just so then they could decrease that learning curve that they have, because it is a learning curve. For engineering, like you really don't know what you're doing for the first few years. That's why we all have a professional engineering degree and have internships in between. But once you get past a certain point, everything starts changing. You start to know what you're talking about, and you start being able to do whatever you want, really, within the realms of, I guess, physical possibilities. So if you're there during lunch, don't underestimate the willingness of people wanting to help teach you something on their free time just by simply asking. Maybe you'll be able to find yourself a mentor. That kind of goes back to being able to ask the right questions. and when to ask the right questions. So if you find the mentor-mentee relationship in someone at your new workplace, that's going to do, I don't know, a tremendous amount of help for your career. I kind of can't think of the words, but you guys get what I mean. You guys are smart kids. So hopefully, you guys don't have any specific questions. We could always go back to these slides. But yeah, like I can't hound the point enough that, like, don't be ashamed to make mistakes, ask questions, but don't ask too many times, because that does get annoying. Even, for yourself, probably you guys have questions from your classmates for something that you understand and they ask like a million times, and it just gets kind of annoying by a few times. But you might be surprised that you probably would be able to answer some of those questions if you do some of the legwork. Oh, cool. We do got a question. Sorry, how do I get back? It popped up for a second.
Let's see. There should be a thing on the top of your screen. It's like a drop-down menu.
Can you? Oh, you guys probably can't see the chat then, right? Says, so I got a question saying, do you ever feel unprepared for certain tasks? If so, what did you do to catch up? Yes. Yeah, it was. It's going to be a big surprise, especially if none of you guys are exposed to the real world or haven't had an internship. Because in school they teach you how to calculate like flow rate of water coming out of a pipe, or maybe air coming out of an HVAC system in like thermodynamics or something like that. And you get to the job field and they tell you, all right, and we'll calculate this or calculate that or design this or that. The best thing I could tell you to do if you feel unprepared is, again, ask questions, but more importantly, kind of take things one step at a time and try to understand the bigger picture of what you're being asked to do. So there's plenty of times in my experience of when I show somebody how to do something, I try to explain to them like what they're doing. I wish I could provide more examples other than civil engineering, but so we do a lot of sidewalk grading in our public works roadway projects, just because most existing ramps out here were built before ADA rules or they were built incorrectly. So when I'm teaching somebody how to do it, I make sure that they understand, like, okay, well, at the bottom of a ramp, that's where a wheelchair person can turn, if they want to cross the street or if they want to turn around or go up the other side of the ramp and continue going down the street that they're headed. And that spot that they could turn around only has a certain elevation or slope to it that is acceptable. So if you kind of understand that concept that, okay, well, this is where a flat spot should be, whether if it's at the bottom of the ramp or at the top of the ramp, everything else kind of starts making sense, because, okay, well, coming down to it, it can only be a certain percentage slope, and coming out of it, it can only be a certain percentage slope. Then you're able to design to those limits, because you kind of understand the bigger picture. I hope that kind of makes sense. Just because, if you're looking in AutoCAD for this example, like you're just looking at lines on a computer and you're like, well, where the heck do I start? Like, well, obviously you got some shots from your survey team, so you know that here's the elevation and I need to design to this elevation to make everything ADA acceptable. But And the second part of your question, what do you do to catch up? The overachievers will definitely tell you that, just spend some time on your free time during lunch or after work or before work, just to do some research and work on your own time to improve those skills, because drafting in AutoCAD really isn't something that's easy to do. Some people start at different points, like they never were in front of a computer before, so they don't know how to copy and paste certain things. I wish AutoCAD was that easy, but there's so many resources out there and so many people at a company you could ask. And for me personally, what helped me the most was finding the right people to ask, and also instead of wasting their time or my time, I asked them very specific questions, how do I make a feature line do this or something like that. Feature lines are something in AutoCAD that has slope and elevation to it. But let me know if that doesn't answer your question. So tip number 3. So let's see. So tip number 3, great. So tip number 3, be a team player. So that's probably why they push teamwork so much in our engineering degrees. We all have senior design, because it is really important in your professional world. We really can't get anything done just by ourselves. So teamwork is a vital element to being successful in engineering. We have to function well in a team-oriented environment to accomplish tasks, especially big tasks. If you're a good team player, you will naturally attract people that will not only be willing, but also invested in helping you succeed. Be known as a person that's competent and collaborative. Personality, charisma, and networking have the ability to do more for your career than technical aptitude. That might catch some of you guys off guard, but it's true. Joffer, my coworker on here, might tell you the same. So I'll repeat that one more time. So personality, charisma, and networking have the ability to do more for your career than technical aptitude. Put conscious effort into developing your team working skills alongside your engineering skills. If you are friendly and pleasant to work with, this will make your life so much easier when trying to get something done. And not only that, it might lead to another job or something down the road. So another tip for this, did Joffer say something? 100%. So actively listen and always be ready to help and support others. Talk to everybody about what you're doing or ask what they're working on. They will have ideas or suggestions you haven't thought of which can be tools added to your tool belt. This can only broaden your knowledge base. My last tip on this slide is to be a problem solver, because it will pay off later when your manager considers you for a promotion.
All right, Henry, looks like you got a question. This is from Christian. He's asking, is workplace politics dramatic in this field? What are the demographics like?
Oh, thanks. I definitely missed that.
No worries.
Yeah, so definitely politics is going to play anywhere you go. I don't think you could get away from any politics in anything, especially in a team environment. Unless you maybe start your own company and you're working for yourself, you're going to have to deal with politics just to get anything done, from the biggest things, from inter-company, inter-agency. There's a certain decorum that you have to be between them and yourself just to come across competent and knowledgeable. But also, politics is super important in your workplace. Just to get anything done in your workplace, if you don't work well with your coworkers, or your boss is kind of a jerk, it makes life a lot more difficult. But to answer your question specifically in this field, I think it kind of varies, and it actually varies dramatically. Not even just with within like a company, but directly with your boss maybe, because just from my experience, in my department, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 project managers, and each one of them have their own way of doing things. So in a way, that's kind of politics, right? Like you kind of have to understand how they like doing things, how they like working with you or with them, and that kind of just improves your potential to get raises and move up in the company if you're able to adapt to those different styles of managing. So what are the demographics like? So can you elaborate on the demographics question? A lot of old people. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So I wish Joffre could like come in with like a second PowerPoint to talk about like the different characteristics, because he gave a good one a long time ago. But there's not only different people, but a wide range of ages too. Like we're dealing with people that are baby boomers that have a different work ethic compared to millennials or Gen Z. But yeah, in civil engineering, at least in the Valley, we definitely have a lot of older people and then millennials. There's not that many in between, just probably because of the recession. So in 2008, 2009, Las Vegas got hit really hard. And a lot of those people that were, maybe middle-aged or a little bit more experienced, they went somewhere else. They were like, let's get a job somewhere else where we could pay the bills. So now in Las Vegas, we kind of have this void of people that are ready to retire, and then people just out of college that really don't know what they're doing. So it's kind of unique in a way, because it's allowed a unique opportunity, at least for me, to learn more than I would have from somebody that's not as experienced. Like my direct boss has like 30, 40 years of experience. So like he literally knows everything about anything about civil engineering. And if he doesn't, I have somebody else to talk to. And I'm able to get all those years of experience from, somebody with the office next to mine, where I wouldn't have at another firm or something like that. So yeah, so this was just that was my last slide. So I'm happy to do question and answers. I see another question in there. How competitive is it in the civil engineering field? So I don't think right now it's not very competitive, just because there's so much work going on in the Valley. Even now during COVID, I was definitely worried a little bit, just because with the FRI money, if you go to the gas station, you get extra taxes that us in the Valley we voted for. So not that many people are driving anymore, so we're not getting that much fuel revenue. And I didn't know this, but the FRI money is actually loaned to RTC. They're the ones that distribute the money, and then they pay off the loans with the money that they get from taxes. So we're almost in debt already, trying to pay for those loans for those public works. So anyways, like in the Valley, and don't quote me on that, by the way, I might not know that. I know this is going on YouTube later, but in the Valley, we're actually doing okay. Like the private side of things, homes are still building, like people are still buying homes. So there's still a lot of work to go around, and a lot of people hiring. So I'm sure that's the case in other parts of the country too. So how can you stand out to companies besides having an internship? So standing out to companies would probably if you don't already have an internship, that obviously would be like the #1 way to stand out to them, because you would have some real world experience. But if you don't already have one, that would probably be your #1 goal. And to get one, you should, check with the ASCE club at your school, or the IEEE for electrical engineers, or whatever the equivalent is for like the student organization chapters, and talk to your classmates, the ones that have jobs, ask them if they have openings at their place to get an internship. When you do land an interview, you guys are obviously here to get some extra knowledge, spend some extra time to look up interview tips. There's when I was interviewing, when I was in your shoes, there's so much resources out there to help you have a good interview. I guess that might be beyond our PowerPoint, but like it doesn't hurt to like look up a list of 100 generic interview questions and then see if you could come up with an answer for each of those, and then kind of practice them, and just be yourself. I think that would probably be the best way to stand out. And then the ideal character is, I would say, just being a team player. And that's why it was so important that I put tip number 3 as just being a team player. Because we've had interns, that you walk by their desk and they're just on their cell phone all day. Like you give them something to do because you want, like, honestly, we were all in your shoes before, so some people might be more sympathetic than others. I certainly am one of those people that I want people to learn. And when you give somebody a task and then every time you walk by their desk to check in on them, they're like on their cell phone, like scrolling Instagram, like that's so infuriating. That's not really being a good team player. So, being a team player, is making some sacrifices, being humble, be kind, like just being there to help people. Show genuine commitment, really. So being on your cell phone scrolling Instagram isn't really showing good team skills. So I do have another question. What do you think helped you the most when it came? Hopefully, if I don't answer you guys' question enough, or you like me to elaborate, I'm happy to do so. We could go down any rabbit hole that you guys want. So the next question is, what do you think helped you the most when it came to transitioning from university to workplace? So I think what helped me, I can't swear on this. And I was talking to my wife. She said, you can't swear either. But what helped me the most is just realizing I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing, but you're qualified. You're certainly qualified. You're a qualified, I guess I should just change the word to idiot because it sounds better. Like, you're certainly an idiot, but you're a qualified idiot. I'm saying that lovingly, obviously. But like transitioning from university to workplace, like just knowing that you don't know what you're doing and you're there to learn, and if you take every opportunity you can to learn and improve your skills, and if you're there to help your bosses, if you're there to help them look good, like your guys' careers will just soar through the roof. I could probably guarantee it. And that's just my personal tip opinion. Maybe somebody might have other tips. So plebes, noobs, yeah, that makes sense. So somebody asked another question. With these 3 tips, which one was the most difficult for you to do, and how did you get better. From Anthony Lopez. So the 3 tips: mentally prepare, decrease your learning curve, and being a team player. So that certainly decreasing the learning curve is the most difficult, I think. Dealing with somebody that, you guys understand with your professors, if there's any professors here, which I doubt, they have PhDs and been teaching for like 20 years, and they know exactly what they're talking about, and they look at the same problem the same way and don't know any other way to look at things, and might not understand the way that you look at it, and aren't willing to work with you. So you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to do some legwork to decrease your learning curve. And it was certainly like a mental shift for me to go the extra mile to learn in AutoCAD, or the technical skills of calculating intersection level of service, or volume to capacity ratio, stuff like that. And the way I did that was just on my free time. I just read a book on transportation engineering, just because we literally took one class in college for transportation engineering, and that I got an A, but I didn't know crap about it. And you go into this workforce with somebody that's been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they kind of think you have an idea of it, and you obviously didn't. So I read a book on my free time, which was a textbook. Probably not the funnest thing to do, but other than that, like I YouTubed AutoCAD. I found people that I could ask questions. My work was nice enough to send us to like AutoCAD training, so they gave us a book. But like you kind of almost have to take those stuff for a grain of salt too, and kind of follow through and see if you could work through the, like your boss gives you a solution, see if you could work through and get that same solution too. I'm sure that happens a lot in electrical engineering, because that's like a calculations heavy field. So if you could rework what your boss gives you, instead of just like plugging it in and be like, oh, I'm done, then you're really going to learn very quickly. I could probably talk for days about some of that stuff. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns or?
Yeah, I actually had a quick question. Me personally, actually, I want to ask you. So, how important are soft skills compared to technical skills when you first start a new job?
Especially when you start a new job, I think soft skills are super important. And the good thing about soft skills is that you can improve. Like, I'm sure you guys could have think of somebody that started a new job with you, and you're like, whoa, this person, this person's not very humble, and this person's not easy to work with. Like, if you have good soft skills, you're gonna naturally attract people that are willing to help you succeed and be invested in helping you succeed. But if you come to a new job thinking like you know everything, and that people don't like that you know what you're doing, and you're telling them something and you think you know better, and they just don't get it because you're a millennial and they're a boomer. I'm not talking from experience, maybe I am. People aren't going to like that. You're probably not going to last very long. Did that answer your question, Alex?
Yeah, thank you, Henry.
Yeah. Yes. And and that transcends just being new at the job too. Like, the reason I went over to another company at Atkins was I always talked to people. I was always there to help people, and somebody reached out to me. He was like, "Oh, so and so mentioned you'd be a good candidate for this job. because they knew I was, easy to work with. So then it led to another job opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I just want to ask too, are there any more questions? Feel free to put them in the chat, or you can just talk if you want.
What do you guys think of the presentation? Is there anything that I could have done better? I kind of just threw this together last night. Hope you guys liked it. I do see a couple questions now. How often do you use calculus day-to-day kind of thing? I was kind of shocked that I don't do any calculus. Like, why do we do differential equations to do anything? Honestly, like the most complicated math I do is like slope with rise over run. Like, I'm always like, is it rise over run, distance over height? I'm always like slowly, under my breath. So that might be different. I mean, because we have electrical engineers and also mechanical engineers that work with us at our firm, and like electrical engineering, my experience, because sometimes I have to do those data calculations for like adding streetlights or not a signal, but like a school flasher to a service pedestal, and that's just multiplying like, okay, these lights have this many amps and there's this many bulbs. What is the draw on the service pedestal, and is there enough left over? So yeah, that's like multiplication addition is the most that we do, and we have a lot of software to do that too. So what's my experience in the field, or my hardest experience? My hardest experience. So sorry, what's your best experience in the field? So my best and hardest experience. Honestly, I really like civil engineering. I would say like just my best experience is just like finishing a project and turning it in. And every project is a whole nother experience, and it's unique, and like there's never a similar project that we do. They're always different, and that would probably be the best experience that I can ask for. But also seeing, like, oh, like I designed that, or I was involved in that. Seeing that in like the real world is pretty awesome too. The hardest experience I had, I don't know if it's just something I tell myself, but or if it's true or not, but or if it's just something I tell myself, is that like nothing that we do, I think, is really that difficult. Yeah, so back to my fulfillment does matter a lot. But so like I said, nothing is really too difficult if you just take it, small steps at a time, and see how things fit in the bigger picture. Like really nothing is really that difficult, because you're designing like storm drains. Like you might be like, well, how the heck do I design that? But like everything that we do has got to be capable for like a contractor to look at the plans and build it. Everything's got to be buildable or something like that. I hope that applies to like a computer science major like Alex. He actually, coding might be pretty difficult, because you're like, you have to come up with something completely new, or maybe something no one's ever done it before, and you're Googling it, and trying to like make sure the code works. That could be pretty difficult. But you're tinkering, you'll constantly tinker with it, and as long as you like keep at it, you'll always, things will work out. Yeah, and yeah, fulfillment matters a lot. So hopefully you guys get that with wherever your careers take you. I think that's probably the number one factor. I'm sure there's like research studies, papers on that. I think they kind of talked about that in an MBA class I took. So before I jump to the Christian's question, I'm not sure if we're hiring interns right now, but our website has like career opportunities on there, and they constantly update it. So you could check on there to see if we're hiring interns. It might be a little while that they would hire an intern that's like completely green, in my group at least, just because we're working remotely and it might be a little difficult for you to learn everything you can remotely. But if we're not hiring, my next best advice is like, talk to your classmates to see if anyone else is hiring, and talk to the local ASCE chapter to see if you could do the mock speed interviews. That's a great opportunity. So are liabilities on the team as a whole or individually? Does a boss see the team as okay, so I guess there are three separate questions. So are there liabilities on the team or as a whole or individually? So there's certainly liabilities if you like stamp something and it's you designed it wrong and you're the engineer on record for that. You definitely have some liability for that, and that's part of the job. But you obviously don't want to be stamping something that you're not competent in, because that's just asking for trouble. But if you're working for a firm like GCW or something, that the firm is kind of the one that's more liable. Like, sure, you're liable too. You could maybe get reported to the board of engineers and lose your license over it. But the company also is responsible, and I'm not sure if we have. I'm sure we have insurance or something like that. So if we get sued, we don't go bankrupt. And that's kind of the reason why you don't really want to go out and start your own firm if you don't know what you're doing. Like Joffrey says, yes, we have insurance. So if you go out and start a firm and you don't know what you're doing and you design something, and it could be as little as like a crack in the sidewalk because the contractor designed your sidewalk and there's a crack and somebody hit the crack and fell on their wheelchair and hit their head and potentially died from it. Yes, that's happened. Like you could get in a lot of trouble for that. And am I in a union? No, we don't have any unions for engineers. Yeah, so probably not. I don't even know if contractors. That's kind of more for like laborers. Luckily, as engineers, you guys probably won't need a union anyways. You'll be able to negotiate favorable terms especially if you're a good engineer and know what you're doing or have good soft skills. You could leave for another company whenever you want. So I-9, I'm assuming I-9's for if you're like a independent contractor or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm obviously W-2, but so if people don't know what W-2 is, if you have a job like you're working for Starbucks or something, you'll get a W-2 at the end of the year to file your taxes. But I'm sure you could negotiate to be independent. So but that's kind of like then you got to pay for your own health care, your own retirement, and you got to negotiate that. And we do have a few of those in our office. I think our electrical engineer is probably on an I-9 or something like that. So
Cool. Are there any more questions? All right. Well, unless there's anything else you want to say, Henry, I think we'll kind of just wrap it up right here.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I was able to provide some value to you guys. Like these tips are pretty in depth. They might seem like common sense, but it might be a little difficult for some people to really internalize. And take everything I said with a grain of salt, because I might not be 100% accurate on everything, especially since you guys asked some great questions and they were very specific, like the I-9 and W-2 question, or stuff like that. I might mess up some of that, but the bigger picture things, I hope you guys got a lot from that. And feel free to always reach out to me. You could call our office and reach me at my desk, or feel free to email me, or get my contact information otherwise. But I'm happy to answer any questions when you guys think you have any, or something like that, or want any career advice or stuff along those lines.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. Thank you, Jaffer. Yeah, thank you everyone for showing up too. Yeah, this is a really good presentation. So this event will be recorded. I don't know if you guys see the little record button. I see it on my screen. It'll be available on our YouTube channel sometime this week. We're thinking, so our next event is going to be networking for engineers. I believe Jaffer is presenting that one. And that is going to be on Tuesday, September 29th, starting at 4 p.m. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks everyone for coming. This is a really good turnout. And yeah, hope to see you guys at that one as well.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks, everybody.